The Dallas Cowboys were historically bad against the Saints on defense in week 2. We'll try to explain why on this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. On today's show, we're going to break down the Cowboys' Week 2 loss against the Saints. Landon, you and I both watched the All-22 film. Now, you watched it last night, and I've been putting it off. I put it off until this morning, and luckily, the Eagles loss on Monday Night Football made the tape about 5% more enjoyable to watch. So thank you, Philadelphia. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was funny. You said joining me as always, and I was sitting there thinking, man, after watching the tape last night, that always was very much in doubt coming in today because it was not something I was looking forward to coming into talking about at all. So, I guess we start with the defense. Should we get the worst part over?
Yeah, let's. I want to start with Micah Parsons, actually, because Parsons graded out very well in this game. Yeah. And you watch the tape, and he played well. Mm-hmm. But the Saints did a really good job of minimizing his impact and trying to take him out of the game. How did they do that?
Yeah, I think this is something that we need to start paying attention to because I think this is going to start becoming, if it hasn't already become a template, right? The Dallas Cowboys defense is elite because at times teams have to throw the football. The whole predication of this is that teams have to throw the football in order to win the game. The Dallas Cowboys defense, when they know you're throwing the football, is one of the most difficult defenses to kind of throw the football on. You've got Micah Parsons coming after you. You've got, hypothetically two, ball hawking corners on either side. Obviously, one of them is injured right now. It's just a situation that is really not tenable. And frankly, teams that have consistently gotten into situations where they had to throw to win the game against the Cowboys have struggled, right? Because of that. And Micah Parsons is a problem. The Saints and a lot of these Shanahan-based offenses have figured out that the way to make this defense worse than average, I would say, is to eliminate as much as humanly possible the snaps in which you have to throw the ball and the defense knows that you have to throw the ball. Right? And so what are they doing? They're attacking first and second down, right? They're being aggressive early in downs in order to make sure to get the first downs early, to not be forced into long down situations. I pulled these numbers from Next Gen Stats. The Saints offense gave up a 35.3% pressure rate on Sunday. That's the 8th highest rate, which is shocking to hear if you're hearing that, the 8th highest rate of all the games in week 2. But despite giving the 8th highest rate of pressure, they only gave up 6 pressures, which is the second lowest number of pressures. So what does that tell you? That tells you that they rightfully knew that they could not, stop the Dallas defense from getting pressure on them in pure drop back passing situations. So they avoided it. They used play action pass. They used max protect. They threw on first and second down whenever they could. They used motion and like I mentioned, play action to gain whatever little advantages they could. And when they had to throw the ball, they were doing it on untraditional situations. They were being aggressive. They were making sure that they were getting plenty of protection on Carr. And they were throwing the ball down the field and using play action to provide huge windows for guys like Olave and Shaheed to kind of cut in and have plenty of room underneath to catch the ball and run. And when you are able to run the football the way they were and then protect your quarterback at the times that they need to in order to generate the big plays that you need to win the game, there's nothing that your defense can really do. You have to find a way to either get them into passing situations so that you can unleash your secret weapon, which they never really did. They didn't put them into difficult third downs. And if you aren't going to do that, then you have to prevent, the big plays that do happen when they generate them using those, max protect situations. They didn't do that either. So it became a deluge, and there was just nothing that they could stop at that point.
So I've had this working theory for a while, Landon, that this is one of the best eras for edge rushers in the NFL, between Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Max Crosby. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson. Like, look how many of those guys are, like, in any given year could be an all-pro edge rusher.
Yeah.
So what teams are doing to counteract that is eliminating the number of true pass sets that you're taking, right? Like, I think in previous years, you might see in any given game 30 pass sets from the Lions, right? And it's happened a little bit to the Lions this week, right? And against the Saints, I'll have to double check, but I believe there were 3 true pass sets in this game. And I think Mike Parsons got pressures on 2 of those.
Yeah.
So if you can eliminate the need to have true pass sets, and when you throw the ball, use play action, use different ways to help your tackles, you can kind of eliminate a guy like Micah Parsons. Again, maybe eliminate's the wrong word. You can reduce his effectiveness.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now my question is for you, Landon, is the counter to move Micah Parsons around more? Because in this game, they didn't do it a ton. Do we need to see Mike Zimmer and the Cowboys do a better job of moving Parsons around so he doesn't get those, those 2 tight ends on that one side?
I mean, I think it can help, but that's not going to be the solution to this problem. I mean, I think the solution to the problem is trying to find ways to get them into passing downs. And the other aspect that I didn't mention on this that was problematic, that I think is the kind of extra angle that they've been adding, right, is the other way that the Cowboys get you into a known pass situation is game script. Right. If they can get you into a negative game script, right, then you're chasing points. You've got to throw the ball. How do they counteract that? They go through the Saints go through a long drive. They score a touchdown. And what do they do on 1st and 10 of their second drive? Right. Motion, play action, max protect, long post down the middle, right down the heart of our defense for the long touchdown. They weren't afraid to be aggressive at times early in the game to make sure that they continued a positive game script which continued to put the defense back on its heels, so they never got the opportunity to pass the ball. That's where the ultimate issue is. You can move Parsons around all you want, but if they're dictating the terms in which they're throwing the ball, it makes it difficult to free him up either way.
And this is where I think Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff needs to change their philosophy. We've seen over the last couple of years, this is a team that loves, certainly at home, they love to defer in the first half, right? Get the ball in the second half, because Mike McCarthy always wants that double dip before halftime, right? And I understand the logic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is a team that has to have a lead early in these games to win. That's why I would like to see them, and we're going to talk about this in segment 2, but be more aggressive on early downs. Be more aggressive on the first and second drives. Don't settle for field goals. Like, if you're going to kick a field goal, it better be a long field goal where you have no other option. But, like, if we're inside the 20, like, these need to be touchdown drives. I think you need to start thinking of the first 20 minutes of these games as where these games are going to be won or lost, because we just have a track record now of, under Mike McCarthy, these teams are not good at closing out games. Like, the Cowboys are not great at closing out games, but they're generally pretty good once they get an early lead, expanding that lead. You need to really lean into that.
Yeah, but even then, like, 100% you're correct. All those things you said are correct. And I would even go further into saying that even when the Cowboys were more successful at scoring points in bunches early in the games and getting teams into negative game script, the thing that really ended up hurting them then too is an inability to close out those games because they couldn't run the football and they couldn't stop the run the way that they wanted to. So I think that, they've got to find a way to, yes, either stop the run or to limit the explosive plays on first and second downs on defense. And if they're not going to do that, then they need to create explosive plays on their offense in order to put these teams back on their heels and get them into situations that generate a positive script for your defense. Because the longer these teams are able to play balanced football in these games, the more our defense is going to continue to struggle. And that's not good. Like, I'm not suggesting that's a good way to build your defense, but that's just the reality of it right now. Like, until you've got a better solution for stopping the run or taking on the blockers in the middle of that defensive line, you've got to find a different way to kind of force them into passing the football so that you can take advantage.
And maybe it'll improve. Maybe Mozzie Smith will get better as the year goes on. Maybe the run fits, but you play more of Marshawn Nealon, the young linebackers step up. But I think as of right now, they need to have a philosophy shift when it comes to these game scripts.
Linval Joseph and Phillips were just so bad. Like, it's hard to put into words how bad they were. And it's to the point where, like, it's early in the season. They should be better than this early in the season. It's later in the season when they start falling off that they should be falling apart like this. This has got to be setting off huge alarm bells in the Cowboys defensive room right now. If it isn't for them, it certainly is for me. They have got to find a way to fix this. Otherwise, their defense is going to be taken advantage by any team that can run the ball just even a decent amount. I don't know that every team is going to be able to replicate this, but enough teams are going to be able to replicate this to make this a real serious problem for this defense.
All right, let's talk about some of the concerns on the offensive side of the ball. And I know it's weird to talk about offensive worries when the defense gave up 6 straight touchdowns to start the game, but there were problems on both sides of the ball that need to be fixed. Let's talk about the offense next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you hire the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. I love Gametime. It's what I use to buy all of my tickets for my favorite sporting events, including this Bills-Jacksonville game next week on Monday Night Football that I can't wait to go see. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier and faster than ever before. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. There's so many different little features that I love about Gametime, including the panoramic view. You're going to get an idea of exactly what your seat looks like before you buy. Just go to the app, pick the seat, scroll all the way around. You can see how close you are to the exits and the bathrooms. It's all fantastic. Plus, they have the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Gametime is absolutely amazing. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Everydayers, on tomorrow's show, we're going to answer your Twitter questions. And I can tell that you're already excited about it because I probably have 15 that are sitting in my DMs right now. I've been trying to answer as many as possible, but I can tell that you guys are ready to talk about this team. That'll be on Wednesday's show. But Lena, let's talk about some of the early down struggles. What did you see on tape from the Cowboys offense that has you concerned?
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like the kind of stuff that we talked about, that we were concerned about this offensive line early in the season have started to rear its head a little bit. It's not even just that the young guys are playing like young guys, though. I would say that that's a note that I have for both sides of the ball. Just to touch on that real quick, it felt like the rookies on both sides of the ball played like rookies on Sunday.
Well, and
right?
I think I saw a stat today. I believe the Cowboys have had the most rookie snaps through the first 2 weeks of the season.
Which makes sense. I mean, honestly, I really felt like, again, just a 10,000 foot view, when Mike McCarthy in his press conference yesterday said they played like a young team, that really clicked in my brain a little bit. And I was like, you know what, that is what I'm seeing.
Well,
Like
not even the rookies, but like Overshown is a second-year player who's hardly played. Now,
young players,
and I get like he didn't play a lot, so it's hard to blame him. But like, Jalen Brooks is one of those. Schoonmaker is one of those who hasn't played a ton. Rico Dowdle even hasn't played a ton over the last couple of years, so I get it.
First of all, we'll talk about Schoon in the next.
Yeah, we'll
segment.
talk about
it. And we're not going to lump him in with the rest of those.
No, but I just want to point like you have a lot of even like second and third year players who've not played a lot of football.
And not even just second, but just people that are not don't have a ton of experience on the field. I'd say all of those guys kind of showed that inexperience in the field. But getting back to what's happening on first and second down, I think the run game is still just extremely not coordinated, right? And that's not even necessarily just BB and Guyton that are causing problems. It just seems like the timing of everything's a little bit off. There was a wide zone play where Tyler Smith was late coming off his double team, and he ended up tackling the running back.
I know.
It's like stuff like that where those guys shouldn't be running into each other. Like the timing of that should be a little bit more worked out. Power run games can often look like controlled chaos at times, right? With bodies moving this direction and that, and kind of folding in around each other. But there shouldn't be guys like facing the wrong direction and like muddying up the hole and standing around blocking no one. And it feels like there's a lot of just kind of not crisp execution in the run game. And I think that's, and then on top of that, I mean, let's be honest. Jerry can say what he wants, but right now you've got two running backs who are probably the two lowest. I think if I remember correctly, they were number 6 and number 7 at the bottom of the list of rushing yards over expectation.
Yep.
And 4 of those bottom 7 were quarterbacks who are sliding before I
saw a stat from PFF today that Ezekiel Elliott's the only running back in the league to have 10 or more touches who does not have a broken tackle yet.
And that's ultimately, we can block it up however you want, you can get simply what's being blocked for you. But if you want to have an offense that's worth something, somebody's got to make a play at some point. And especially if you want a run game that is going to be efficient, you have to have a running back who can break a tackle. Like this is like, they are getting just what's blocked for them, and then sometimes they're getting just a little bit less than what's blocked for them. And that's a problem because it's not like the Cowboys offensive line as it currently is operating is an elite run blocking unit. I think that they can get there. This is the difference between the run defense problems and the run offense problems, is that I think even if you don't get another running back, I would definitely like another running back. And I think it's important.
It's just not Dalvin.
Even if you don't get another running back, I think the run game will improve because I think you have 2 young players who are still trying to figure it out. I think you have an offensive line that's still figuring it out as a group, right? That will congeal as the season goes on. I think that will get better. I have less hope for the run defense because I think that's a personnel issue. But I do think that they just need some coordination on the offensive side of the ball. And I think things will start working a little bit better. There was also times in pass game when it felt like Dak got pressured and got rid of the ball, like right as guys were breaking open, like right as the play was developed. So I just think generally speaking, they aren't very crisp right now. And I think I'm hoping that improves as time goes on, but in the run game, in the pass game, there are just too many times when if Dak doesn't break loose and make a huge play, then the offense, I don't know, is kind of generating on a per play basis.
I just wanted to make a couple points in the run game. I think Zeke is filling the role that he was brought in to do. So I don't want to lump Zeke into this conversation, but like Deuce Vaughn is not reading things correctly, and he's not giving you anything after contact. So his plays are kind of a wash. Rico had a fine game, but
But he's disappointing for him, right?
Yeah,
for what we expected of him.
The argument for running backs don't matter is that it's very easy to find a replacement level running back. I just wonder if Dallas even has a replacement level running back on the roster right now. I know it's not Deuce Vaughn. I think he's way below replacement level. Again, Zeke is playing his role, so I don't want to lump him in there. The only guy that I think has the potential to be that is Rico, and they don't give Rico enough touches to have him get into any kind of rhythm, and partly because of the game script. But what was more concerning to me, Landon, is that it seemed like the plays, I'm trying to think about how I want to word this, the designed plays, right? Like the end around to Brandon Cooks and some of these targets to like Deuce Vaughn, or you know what I mean? Like the package plays where they clearly worked on them all week had almost no success. And as I was watching this game, it's almost like it felt back to like the Kellen Moore offense, where it's a package of plays rather than an offense, right? What's your staple of the offense that you can go to on 3rd and 5 and know that you're going to get a quality play and a quality look? It just didn't feel like they had that. So they had to rely on not trick plays, but just clearly designed plays, and they didn't execute any of those well.
So real quick, and I'll try to be fast. That Deuce Vaughn Turpin package that they had out there, right? Like the whole point of that package, it seemed to me, was to create a high-low situation for the boundary corner in like that was either in 1 or 3 or some kind of silo coverage, 4 maybe, right? And what they would do is have, I think it was CeeDee Lamb go to the corner route, to the sideline on a deep route, like as an out or a deep over or something, and then they would just basically have Turpin release out to the flat, and they would create a high-low conflict on the boundary with the defender, right? And if he goes deep with CeeDee, you throw it underneath the Turpin, he makes a guy miss. If it comes down to Turpin, you throw it deep to CeeDee, but no one's going to do that part. Why was Deuce Vaughn in the game for that?
I don't
know. It's like it felt like he was in the game so that you had a reason to have him in the game at a certain point, right?
And that's why it feels like they're hand-fisting this together to try to have Deuce in the game. Like I mean,
he's releasing out to the other flat. Dak's not even looking in that direction. Like, why not have a running back in just to block for Dak? It's like there's just it feels very like contrived with Deuce Vaughn, right? Like they're desperate to try to get him something, and even that stuff isn't working well enough. Like we shouldn't have to be working so hard for our explosive back to be explosive. That's where it is. And if he's not going to do that, then we already have worse than replacement level running backs that we are giving the ball to. We can't afford a third one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's talk about the positives, because we've been nothing but negative in the first 23 minutes of this show. Let's talk about some of the positive notes that came out of this ugly loss in week 2. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It's the only sportsbook that I use to make my Sunday bets. Cowboys are underdogs at home this week against the 0-2 Baltimore Ravens. I think that's a little bit interesting. I know. But we've got something a little bit different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you're going to be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. As a Cowboy fan living in Pennsylvania, I've needed Sunday Ticket for my entire life, and I can't tell you how awesome it is. I love being able to watch all of these games. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We'd also encourage you to go check out the new Locked On NFL show for your second listen. We've got the Madman Tyler Rowland in the morning, kicking you off with some great NFL coverage. And then in the afternoon, Tony Wiggins for some barbershop talk. They both do fantastic jobs on that show. Also on Fridays, Matt Williamson is on the podcast, so make sure you check him out as well. Make Locked On NFL your second listen every single day. Landon, let's talk about some positive things coming out of this game. And I think we should start with Luke Schoonmaker, who got to start. I don't think it was a dominant performance or anything, but I thought he did exactly what you were hoping that he'd do.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we were looking for him to take advantage of the opportunities that he got. He got 6 targets, and he converted on all 6. Was for, I think it was like 72 yards. Oh, sorry, 43 yards. He averaged 7.2 yards a catch. Yeah. So obviously they weren't sending him deep. They weren't. Wasn't a bunch of seam routes. It wasn't necessarily what the kind of looks that Ferguson necessarily got. But I think it's more than that too. He didn't he made the easy ones, but he also made a couple of difficult catches, right? Like there was one where Dak overthrew him a little bit and he was able to reach up with one hand and bring it down. So I thought, and I think actually one of the mistakes that maybe the Cowboys did was that they were having success with him out there as a tight end receiving target.
They should have used him more.
And then I think they just stopped doing it after the early game script, it felt like, right?
And I think they should have used him more on early downs. And this is where we saw success. Give him a 5-yard catch on first down and get into 2nd and 5. Instead, they were running and having no success on the ground. It's really easy to get 5 yards by throwing it to Luke Schoonmaker on first down if you need it.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea, I hate the thought, and I hope this is not it. I hate the thought that they were like, oh, we have no Ferguson this week, so let's do more Deuce Vaughn Turpin packages. So because as an alternate, so long story short, I thought the Schoonmaker performed really well. He needed that for his confidence, and I think just to kind of take that step. And I was talking to y'all in the DMs about this. I think this is a very positive development for this team for all the things that we talked about earlier in this podcast, right? As teams are playing more and more kind of shell coverages and forcing teams to dink and dunk down the field, forcing teams to go more into their run games in order to move the ball, having a second big body tight end who, hopefully as the season goes on can become a reliable target is incredibly valuable, because you saw him on 2 different situations. He was running that pivot route. He's got really nice feet. He could beat linebackers like Pete Werner, who's, no slouch in one-on-one coverage if you need him to. And again, keeping in mind that he's the second tight end on the field. So he's drawing the lowest on the totem pole in coverage, right? In man situations. I just think that having another big body guy who can help you in the blocking in the run game, and then also be a reliable big body receiver is just something that is going to help kind of counteract some of these, shell coverage, the new look defenses that we're seeing, because it's just another guy that is reliable, that's a safe body to throw it to, and who can be a valuable part of the run game as well when you need him.
Let's talk about some other positives coming out of this game. Tyler Guyton was your best tackle in this game.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost kind of by default. It felt like, just unfortunately, because it felt like, really Steele was struggling. It's almost exclusively, it felt like at times, with the inside move. And so that's where
we're being positive here. We're being positive.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I was trying to pivot. Let's not talk about the lack of a strong inside post leg by Steele. Let's talk about Guyton, who, I think it's still very much an early in his career offensive tackle. There were times when it didn't look good, but there were definitely times when, the technique looked right. He was finishing guys. He was putting people on the ground. Pressure wasn't a problem for the Cowboys really in this game.
No,
I mean, if you look at it, Dak took 3 sacks, but I think that a lot of that may have been, just the fact that there's no one open. There were coverage sacks, right? I think that the protection for the most part was pretty decent. Where you feel like you want to continue to see Guyton grow is in the run game, right? Is just as a run blocker on the edge. That's where you still feel like there's lots of room for him to grow as a pass protector. I think he did a much better job this week as opposed to last week. As far as his technique and just kind of keeping it all in front of him. I noticed a lot less lunging. I mean, heck, it helps to not have to be playing defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett, But I thought that Chase Young still had some nice rushes against him. There was definitely in the run game, there was a couple plays where it felt like he got the better of Guyton. But in the pass game, I thought he did a really good job against a guy who was a former #1 pick himself, and just it started to really kind of come into his own, and just another NFL pass rusher that Guyton has gone up against and kind of passed the test on.
So I just wanted to break down some PFF numbers because technically Guyton gave up a sack in both games. Now, the sack that he gave up in this game wasn't really his fault. He blocked Chase Young. Dak stepped up into a pocket and he was able to get off of Guyton's block and get the sack, right? Again, it goes down as a sack for Guyton, but it's not the worst sack in the world. It's not like he was beaten right away.
Yeah.
He gave up 5 pressures, right? And again, this is the same thing. 5 pressures. A lot of those pressures weren't his fault. Last week, he only gave up 2 pressures, but PFF had him charted with 5 times that the defender beat him in a pass rush, right? That was on 37 pass blocking snaps. In this game,
I was just going to say, they threw the ball 42 times this time.
He had 50 pass block snaps, and he was only beaten by the defender once in this game. So 5 pressures, but PFF deemed that he only really lost 1 time. So not perfect or anything, but I think you did see some growth from him from week 1, week 2. Could just be the opponent going from Myles Garrett to Chase Young. But I thought in general, I just thought he looked better this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was noticeable. He just more comfortable. And I think when you're more comfortable, especially for him with his issue being reaching, you don't feel the need to have to engage so quickly. You can be patient. You don't waste spend as much. And I think that's going to be a big thing for him in the future.
Right. Any other positive notes that you want to point out before we move on?
This week will be over soon. Or I guess it won't. We're almost to Wednesday. I mean, we got to move on. Look, it's an early game loss. The Cowboys had one last year that was ugly as well. They've had one the year before or 2 years before that. It's not the end of the world. Some of the stuff is easily correctable. Some of the stuff is not. But it's a long season and we've just started.
All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Go check out the channel on YouTube. We post videos and podcasts every single day. Go download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosier, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.